Hi, I'm Tim Phelan, president of the Connecticut Retail Network, and we want to welcome you back to our third quick conversations with the legislative leaders as we prepare for the 2024 session. We're really excited and grateful to spend a few minutes with the House Minority Leader, Representative Vin Candelora. Representative Candelora is from the 86th District, serving residents of North Branford, Durham, East Haven, and Guilford. But more than anything at that, Representative Candelora is a great friend to the retail industry. And we're really appreciative of him continuing to serve in the legislature, because that's not an easy thing, but continuing to look out for our interests and always have an open door for us to come in and talk about retail issues. So today we wanted to just have a quick conversation about what we can expect in a short 2024 legislative session. So Vin, welcome, and it's great to see you again.
Thanks. Great to be here and chat with you about this upcoming session. As you know, it's a short session, and we're supposed to be focusing on sort of budget adjustments, but there are always other issues that are important that crop into the session.
That's right. And a short legislative session means we start in February, so it's going to be here in less than a month, February 7th, and we end in May. So what's going to be your caucus's focus in general this year? It may not be retail specific, but what are you guys going to be trying to pay attention most to?
Yeah, I think we have a bit of a broad brush theme. We want to look at affordability, and we want to look at public safety. People are still talking about the inflation and the high cost of goods and services throughout the state of Connecticut. How could we help put money back into the people's pockets? I think we're still going to talk about a child tax deduction. We're one of the few states that don't do that. If you have children, you should be able to take them as a deduction like you do at the federal level. We want to look at paid family medical leave. They're taking too much money out of people's paychecks. They're running a surplus. I'm concerned that that money is going to be diverted to something else. So we would like to see the money coming out of people's paychecks reduced, and also making that program easier for the employees and the employers to operate. I personally have employees that have not availed themselves of it, even though they should have, because they don't want to fill out the paperwork. It's too cumbersome.
Yeah.
For crime, we're going to look at the lawlessness that we're seeing out there. The street takeovers certainly are impacting retail. I was shopping in North Haven when those 1,500 cars shut down all of those retail merchants and took over that neighborhood. We need to heighten those penalties. We did last year, but I think we have to take a look at the ringleaders, the people that are conspiring on social media to sort of create that event, which is a public safety concern, but it also does impact retail. Even retail theft is a big issue. It's alarming. You don't hear about the smash and grab that you see over in Los Angeles, but in Connecticut, when I talk to retail merchants, they do talk about the heightened theft that they now have. If you go into a pharmacy now, everything is locked down. And so we're headed in the wrong direction as a state when it comes to crime. And it's something that our caucus feels the need to continue to push, especially because our younger generation is being trained to be career criminals. And that's not what government should have been encouraging.
Well, we appreciate all of that conversation, Vin, at the top about reductions and how the money on paid family medical leave is being spent, and deductions for child tax credits. All those things are important for the economy. And on organized retail crime, that's a major focus for so many of our members. And we appreciate your willingness to talk about that. Maybe throughout the session, we can talk some more about ways that we can work to sort of get the attention of police and prosecutors to really make a dent and make it so that there is deterrence to participating in this complicated web now of organized retail crime. As you say, it's not what it used to be, but it's certainly on the rise. Let me just ask you again a little bit about tax issues. We are obviously we're direct to customers. So one of the big things that we like to talk about anyways are the consumer-related taxes. Now, the fact that Connecticut's budget is in fairly stable condition, do you think there's any chance that we could look at some reduction in the sales tax?
Well, we do want to have that conversation, and I think there's areas that we're looking at. For instance, clothing, kids' clothing. Can we start to peel back that item? If we limit it just to youth clothing, it's about a $7 million to $9 million cost to the state.
Yeah,
they may be able to afford that reduction, and I think it's something we have to take a look at. There were a lot of taxes, as you know, that were put in place when we saw massive recession 10 years ago. We have to start peeling that back. The meals tax is 1% higher than everything else. We should be looking at that tax. The luxury taxes that were put in place for some goods and services. We could afford to peel some of that back, especially if we're seeing costs rise. For motor vehicles, a $50,000 vehicle is not a luxury vehicle anymore.
No.
And yet you will pay 1% more for a car that's over that threshold. So I think broadly, yes, we have to start that conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Those were all really good points, particularly the clothing and the luxury tax. A lot of our members have to add that surcharge on luxury tax. And as you say, with the increasing of cost of goods, it's really not a luxury anymore. Just quickly shifting gears to another big part of our agenda always is in the area of labor and public employees. I know we are still challenged with trying to find folks to come in and work in retail stores, but we're also challenged by the labor committee, who continuously wants to put additional mandates on us. So just, what are your thoughts on or preview of what you think the labor committee might be up to this year?
Yeah, I think you saw the chair already come out to say that she wants to eliminate the tip credit and take away waiters and waitresses' tips throughout the state of Connecticut. It's crazy. And unfortunately, they don't think outside the box. They continue to demonize employers and attack employers. I'd like to have a broader conversation about our youth employment laws. How can we put kids into retail, into the workforce without so many cumbersome rules? We have rules that extend through the summertime. When the kids aren't in school, they should be able to work a little bit longer, but Connecticut doesn't allow that. There's onerous paperwork that's involved. The hours need to be quite restrictive for these kids. And if employers make a mistake, they get hit with a hammer. And so Connecticut really doesn't encourage youth employment in the state of Connecticut. And I think it's something we should look at, because if we could get these kids working at 16, some of my greatest memories were when I was a kid working in the local store. And you learn a lot from them. And so it could be an untapped pool that we could, tie into. So that is something we want to take a look at. As you know, the predictive scheduling continues to rear its head. Which just isn't fair to employers. You can have an employee call out at the drop of a hat, which often happens and leads us to scramble. But then you're going to have to pay them double time if you're going to bring somebody in. A lot of times, employers don't have the adversarial relationship with their employees that the Democrats like to try to claim.
Well, particularly in retail, we don't. I mean, we are the definition of a flexible employee. Employer. So go right ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and the environment is much better than they think. And so I think we just have to educate them to understand that this flexibility with scheduling works both ways. It's good for the employer. It's good for the employee. And so it's something I will continue to fight, because we can't take those tools out of the toolbox for employment. The flexibility is what makes this state great.
Yeah, that's great. And Vin, I know how respected you are, but across the aisle with House Democrats and Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans. So we really appreciate your making these comments, because if change can take place, we know that your working relationship with Speaker Ritter, for instance, is phenomenal, and it really could. Some of these changes really could take place. So we appreciate it very much.
No, I'm happy to help. I mean, it's a level of just pragmatism. I think one of the things I pride myself in is I have a retail business, so I know the issues, and if we bring those issues into the conversation at the legislative level, I mean, you're great at certainly reaching out to all the caucuses and lobbying on their behalf. And then it just helps. I try to push back, and I think we do have a level of pragmatism right now, certainly in the House, and hopefully that will continue because Connecticut is doing better than some other states, and we don't want to go by way of them, and so hopefully we'll see additional incremental change this next session that helps the retail market.
Well, I think one of the big things we could do is make sure our budget remains stable and that we, are not looking at any of these crazy taxes that we had to deal with 10 years ago. And like you mentioned, some states are already staring down deficits for next year, and we're not. So thanks to your work, really, and your caucus members, you've really kept that from, getting out of whack again. So,
we stayed strong on those caps, and the governor has stood by the volatility cap and the spending cap. And that's been important. And we've been partners with the governor in making sure that those caps remain. As tough as they are sometimes, they're there for a reason and they need to be protected.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you go, Vin. Thanks so much for your time. As I said, before we know it, the regular session will be here and we'll see much more of each other. But I know you're busy bringing kids back to school and all that. And then we're all gearing up to start the craziness in another month. So thanks again for your time. And our members really do appreciate, all your advocacy on our behalf and your willingness to work with us on all these major issues.
Thank you. Happy to help.